Now before I can remove any more clay from out of this floor, remember I'm digging it to level it all off, I need to assess the condition of this wall. Now there is some defective and some good lime render on there, but to accurately gauge how strong this wall is, if there's any damage, cracks, I need to get it all off. So yeah, before I do any more digging, we'll get this render off, yeah, and we'll reassess. Now we have the area where the water main came in. Obviously I've got to fill that in. There's just a little bit of loose pointing down the base, which we can sort out, that's not an issue. I just want to make sure there's no other issues anywhere in this area. You did turn the water off, didn't you? Get yourself one of these if you haven't already got one. It's much more efficient and a better finish than using saws, just like a guillotine ratchet. It's better. I will have an isolation valve on here once I sort out what I'm going to actually do in this area. So far so good, there's no major damage anywhere, there's no cracks or holes. Now all I'm doing at this stage is just merely removing any defective lime render that just basically easily falls off. Now on my initial inspection, there doesn't look to be anything of concern. You know, there's a few gaps here and there, probably where I've just pulled the old lime render out of the joint, but there's no cracks or settlement. The wall was nice and dry, which is really encouraging, apart from me wetting it down. And more importantly, around this beam there is no movement whatsoever. So here's the plan. Now on the exterior wall, if you're new to the channel and you don't know, the ground level at the back comes up roughly to about here, let's say. Now I had it all dug away with a mini digger. We put in a foundation membrane right away across all the buildings. So that covers to about there and then goes probably 500 to 600 mil, which is about that deep, below our internal floor level. So what the plan is to consolidate the base of this, because I've dug the floor down, remove all this, dig a trench down. I'm going to fit or lay all of the stones that we've took out of here. I'm going to dress them, cut them up. We're going to raise probably 3 or 4 courses depending on how it works out, and that will be a stone plinth. It will seat on top, a piece of oak, and then we'll design our wall from the wall plate from there so it looks original. Now this will be covered with lime, and then we'll put a permeable insulation, maybe hemp, rock wool, something like that in front of it, and then the wall covering, just so it can breathe. So any moisture, when you've got a solid stone house, they must breathe internally and externally. And yeah, the back end of this house should last another few hundred years if I do it right. So we've got a little bit to remove up the top there. Other than that, yeah, wow, it's a very, very sound wall. And don't forget, we're talking over 1 metre at the base. So I had a metre long drill bit and I couldn't go through in one go. Now some walls are better than others at handling moisture and breathing. I mean, when you look at, you can clearly see that that's a different sort of type of rock. It's holding on to the water. The others around it are very dry. And then you've got this course across the bottom, so yeah, different rocks behave differently. Okay, if you can imagine, that's the wall, that's the ground level here. Now what we need to do is come up and build a retainer to hold the base of this. So what we've got to do now is dig down, shallow trench, and then that way The bottoms of the stones will be there, they'll be sitting on a nice foundation, and in that way it kind of holds the force, if you like. You've got a bit of force coming that way to resist the force coming that way. So that'll be the base, and then this will be infilled because it'll all be irregular. So yeah, some limecrete there, that'll be our blocks. It just gives it something to hold against the forces that are coming this way. Very encouraging that it's absolutely solid in this ground. I dare say this sort of construction is quite unorthodox to a lot of you. But you know, back in the day when these were built, you had to rely on the skill and the expertise of the people that were making it. No regulations then, they've stood up for 300 years, so although this one nearly fell down. So now you've got to rely on my expertise to keep it going again. So hopefully we're rescuing it for future. So we've got a nice deep foundation for what we need, footing. Going to blind it off a little bit of sand. I'm going to put a membrane in it. It's very wet here. And then if I'll show you what we're going to be doing. Make some stone like this. If you can imagine that is the finished surface level. These stones will sit below that. On a reinforced foundation, we're going to put some rebar in it. So it'd be really strong, you know, probably pop a few vertical rebars. Keep it inside the membrane so we don't pierce that. And then we've got a really, really strong retaining wall that's going to look original, it's going to function, it's going to stop the moisture coming up through this area. The wall's still going to breathe. Yeah, we've ticked every box, I think. Okay, I've got to go and get some materials from the builder's yard, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for joining.